How many times has Toy Story 3 made me cry? Every time. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the third installment in the Toy Story franchise, Pixar's 2010 comedy drama, Toy Story 3. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, ranked lists, and trailer reactions. All of my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Toy Story 3 stars the vocal talents of Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Joan Cusack, and Don Rickles, and was directed by Lee Unkrich. 7 years after the events of Toy Story 2, Andy's headed off to college, and through a series of misunderstandings, his remaining toys end up at Sunnyside Daycare. At first, they're excited about the prospect of being played with again, but they soon discover that Sunnyside is far more sinister than it appears, and Woody must help his friends escape before Andy leaves for college. I grew up with Toy Story. No, I grew up with Andy. His childhood was my childhood. When Toy Story was released, I was only a few years younger than Andy. Toy Story 2 came out, and now less than a year separated me and our star human protagonist. The adventures of his toys were like the adventures of mine, and all of the thematic messages of both films hit home with me. Friendship, loyalty, growing up, bravery, all of these things were being portrayed by Andy, Woody, Buzz, and the gang as I was experiencing them myself. Toy Story 2 ended, and I was sure that it was the last of the story. Years went by, and I frequently revisited both movies, always wanting more, but never expecting it. And then one day, Toy Story 3 was announced, and I gotta say, I was extremely skeptical. By that point, Pixar had churned out original film after original film, with Toy Story 2 being the lone sequel under their belt, so it felt a little weird that they were gonna do a third Toy Story movie. How were they gonna revive a beloved franchise after more than a decade? How could it possibly have the same magic that the first two films had? As much as I wanted to see more of these characters I had grown up with, I was inexplicably almost mad that they were bringing the franchise back. I was nervous that they were going to alter something fundamental about the characters or the story, and that it was somehow going to tarnish the legacy of these films I loved so much. But then I watched Toy Story 3. I was still growing up with Andy. He was headed to college, leaving behind pieces of his childhood that he had once held so dear. Had I not just done that myself only 2 years before? Even though I was now older than Andy, his story still resonated with me, fresh in my own recent past. Every bit of the film's emotion made sense. The excitement, the nervousness, the stress, the final moments before heading out to truly start your life. It all made sense, and here I was watching Andy go through it too. This film is every bit the Toy Story I loved throughout my childhood and more. Almost all of our favorite toys are back, and their character development only deepens here. The adventure's still alive as we experience yet another new chapter in their tale. The comedy is just as humorous. The animation is even more dazzling than ever before, but there's something more. Something that affects you on a level far deeper than it should, or at least far deeper than you'd expect it to. The previous two movies had an impressive degree of thematic layering and important life lessons, but Toy Story 3 takes it up to a whole new level in that regard. This film is full of emotional trials, far more mature than one would ever expect in a film about talking toys. But that's because this film is about far more than just talking toys. It's about childhood, it's about loss, and it's about growing up. This is an incredibly emotional film. Right from the start, your heart is aching watching home videos of an animated boy you grew up with. By the time Woody's hopefully holding onto a phone as Andy talks on the other side of the line, you're tearing up, just willing Woody to say hello to him. And the end of this film is emotionally gripping and traumatic all at once. I saw this in theaters when I was 20 years old. 2 decades old, and yet in one of the final climactic scenes, I was already crying. Crying more than I had done during Jessie's story in Toy Story 2 back when I was 9 years old. But how could I not be crying as I watched that solemn look of acceptance wash over Woody's face as he turned towards his friends who were all holding hands? By the final scene of Toy Story 3, I couldn't keep it together at all. What was wrong with me, right? I was an adult sobbing in a crowded movie theater over some animated toys. But as I kind of cautiously glanced around, I realized there wasn't anything wrong with me, because everybody was crying. Little kids sniffling, teenagers wiping their eyes, trying to pretend it wasn't affecting them. Many of the parents were crying harder than their kids were, all over some animated toys and a fictional boy named Andy. Only Andy isn't fictional. Not really. He's all of us. Whether you literally grew up with him like I did, or you just watched him grow up over the course of the trilogy, he means something. His life is real, and his connection to Woody, Buzz, and the rest of his toys is real. Our connection to his toys is real. And because of that, even when this franchise finally comes to an end, we'll never be able to say so long, partner. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one has gotta be the emotional impact. The ending of this film is really the pinnacle of Pixar's emotional storytelling. The themes, which had their seeds planted back in Toy Story 2 with Jesse's story, have now fully matured into truly gripping and heart wrenching moments in this film. No matter how many times I watch this movie, no matter how much I mentally prepare myself, I always cry at the end. Every single time. And I'm not a big crier. In my entire life, I think there have been maybe 5 or 6 movies that have ever made me cry. Not just tear up, but actually cry. And none of the others have made me repeatedly cry. But there's just something about Toy Story 3 that hits me so hard on an emotional level. Pro number two is the character development. We've been with Woody, Buzz, and the rest of the gang for 3 movies now, and yet they still evolve. I think that's one of the most impressive things about the franchise, and this film in particular. They're animated toys, but somehow their problems and interactions are so relatable. So, when faced with new situations, we see their unique responses. Of course, we know basically how they're gonna react. Woody will be loyal, Buzz will be brave, Jessie will be excited, Mr. Potato Head will be sarcastic, Ham will be witty, Rex will be apprehensive, Slinky Dog will be the voice of reason. Yet, after all these years, they still change. They still shift their viewpoints. They still rely on one another for support. And they still feel like they're real. Pro number three is the resolution. As emotionally taxing as this film is, it truly feels like the perfect conclusion to the Toy Story trilogy. There are small aspects of the story that don't get wrapped up perfectly, but considering the entire franchise is about how dynamic and unstable life can be as we grow up, that makes perfect sense. And as hard as it is to watch, and as much as I wish things happened a little differently, the ending is perfect, closing out the story just as it began, a shot of the clouds and Andy's toys being there when he needed them. Now I know what you're thinking. It's not an ending. We have Toy Story 4 now. Well, I've seen Toy Story 4 already, and I'll specifically address that aspect in my review of that film, but for now, I'll just say that Toy Story 3 still remains a perfect end to the trilogy, even if it's not the end of the franchise. As far as cons go, I've got nothing. As has been the case with the last 2 Toy Story movies, my only issues with the film are really minor nitpicks. I know it added to the emotional side of things early on in the film, but it felt weirdly unnecessary to have gotten rid of Bo in the interim between Toy Story 2 and 3. I also find it hard to believe that after all these years and all they've been through together, that the other toys would think Woody was lying to them about the attic mix-up. Again though, minor nitpicks that don't detract from this movie in any significant way. I'm gonna give Toy Story 3 5 out of 5 paws. This movie wouldn't work without the setup of the previous 2 films in the franchise, but this franchise wouldn't be the emotional perfection that it is without Toy Story 3. The adventure, the humor, the beloved characters, and the heart all return here in top form. I would recommend Toy Story 3 to anybody. You really need to see and be invested in the previous 2 films to feel the full emotional impact of this one, but anybody can find something to connect with here. Kids will enjoy the comedy and adventure, teens and 20-something-year-olds will relate to Andy as he moves on from childhood to start his life, and parents will relate to not only Andy's mom, but to Woody as well. This truly is the height of emotional storytelling in an animated film. If you liked Toy Story 3, I've got to recommend the rest of the Toy Story franchise. I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record and that you've more than likely already seen the others, but they're not only important for context, they're also just great films. If you want another emotionally gripping Pixar adventure, make sure you watch Up. The premise sounds ridiculous on paper, but it's a great movie, and features a montage sequence at the beginning that will bring you through all of the extremes of human emotion in less than 5 minutes. I've also got to recommend The Brave Little Toaster. Not only is it another animated film about anthropomorphized inanimate objects that are extremely loyal to their human owner, but it also features a heartbreakingly emotional and gripping scene at a landfill. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Toy Story 3? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's a movie that makes you cry no matter how many times you've watched it? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it so you can see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies. The way life should be.